if they're going to give a workshop on Monday.
That's where Mark is. We don't have a speaker.
Oh, Mark Rodin. He said he'd be right back. He is our next speaker, and we'd kind of like to have him around. Is the PA system now working better? Okay. Well, okay. We appreciate. We apologize for last night. Our PA problems. The hotel didn't give us much time to work on it since all these facilities were used until 5 o'clock, and we had to be ready to go by 7. And after 5, you see all the audio-visual stores were closed, and so we were having a bit of a problem there. Now, I might invite a standby speaker if Mark doesn't come back in the room. Mark Rodin sent me a book that he has written on basically on mathematics. I looked at the book, I went through the book, and I found out that I have no idea what he was talking about. If it will produce electricity, I'm for it, if it's cheap. And that's the name of the game, and that's the objective. And Mark has some things figured out in the way of how to produce these coils, how to do these things that will produce power, electricity, and a number of those things. That's what his book was trying to explain. And I know there are a number of people in this room that would understand what he has proposed. A number of people have read his book who are engineers or mathematicians or physicists and have told him that his material is valid, and they are in agreement that it is good. And the whole idea is to simplify the production of electric power. That's what we're going to talk about this morning. He's involved in some other things. He's interested in health as well, and the healing arts and the healing activities. He is on his way, and here he is. We've been talking about you, and now we have to quit. All right, we'll get him wired for sound. Somebody took away your chair already.
This is for the video.
Did you?
Oh, you need the chair? I took it away.
Oh, okay.
For your video or for
I think he wants to set like that.
I had some loose. Yeah, I had some loose papers.
Yes. Need the
I
pointer.
don't know.
Clipboard.
Okay, you want to turn it on?
How do you?
And this runs the. This is the remote for the.
Oh, there. I'm set.
Okay.
Testing. Hello.
Flip on this thing down here. No,
Here
over-
goes.
Talk.
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Global Sciences, welcome to Mark Rodin, San Diego.
Well, good morning. I'm sorry I'm a little late. They're going to activate my laser in a second. Let's get the slide projector on. Forward. Okay, it's going to come on with a work of art, which is my preference to put on all automatic. Is that clear? Okay. We all love Indians, so that's very few people have ever seen that art piece. There's only 2 reproductions of it in the world that are on walls. And the rest of them are And that's it. The original ing's on the heart in the artist's room. Okay, there we go. Laser's on. Okay, can you hear me when I raise my head up like this? Okay, no, I know it's on. It just has to be close to my mouth. How's this? Hello? 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 There we go. Is there a volume adjustment on the control?
No, not there.
I think that's as good as it gets. Okay. Phew. All right. Okay, can't hear me. I'm gonna start with the prayer. Why not? Because it's a simple one paragraph. It comes out of the hidden words. O Son of Man, thou art my dominion perisheth not. Wherefore fearest thou thy perishing? Thou art my light, and my light shall never be extinguished. Why dost thou dread extinction? Thou art my glory fadeth not. Thou art my robe, and my robe shall never be outworn. Abide then in thy love for me, that thou mayest find me in the realm of glory. The subject of my talk today is on electricity and magnetism. And I consider this audience probably the foremost specialists there are on this planet in magnetism. Certainly, I don't think there's any more qualified group. That's how unadvanced, yet how unique it is, the subject. Every one of us have personal insights into it. We use it for healing. And to communicate our knowledge in magnetism is very, very difficult. I've tried to teach what I know about magnetism to some of the finest audiences in the world. So that'll be in my credits in the slides as I go along. It is very difficult, especially when you make a discovery. Okay, the talk is on how to produce inexhaustible electricity and for your home or car. And I'm serious in that statement. I think that the most difficult part of my whole talk is the fact that I'm not joking about anything I say. I really am sincere. This morning, you know, we all are always being swamped with the fact that our resources for energy, that we're going to go into an economic recession if we don't have energy. The panacea or ultimate source of energy would be portable energy, energy that you can have if you're in the desert or in the mountain, take anywhere, just like a piece of your property, like a suitcase. Okay, I'll go on with the presentation. I'm going to apply it to not only electricity as it relates to external apparatuses such as coils, power generation plants such as dams, etc., nuclear generators, but I'm going to apply it also to the physiology, the human body. Any external apparatus peripheral to the human body is secondary. If true healing takes place from within, though there are many approaches. Well, maybe they're all backwards. Well, what can I do? Everyone's backwards. Should I ask someone to flip them for me while I talk? Okay. Oh, someone else will self-appoint themselves. Okay. I have notes. Okay, what I've done is this. Okay, I'm a lover of God. I study on religion. I studied on the mathematics in the Arabic, Aramaic, and Persian language. The type of mathematics that I teach do not exist in any university. When I was 15 years old, I went and tried to teach them at UCLA to the professors. Didn't work too well, and it hurt my feelings, and I left the universities for, it's been some time. Now I've gone back, I've worked with professors. I've never had any mathematician ever say that they even felt that they were qualified. They've always stated that my work is unique. In fact, they said that's the most difficult aspect of it, is that they have no way of almost evaluating it. I almost claim, with reserve because I have no education, I don't really know what exists out there, to be the greatest mathematician to have lived to date. That's because if my mathematics are correct, it would make our planet a utopia. It would make it a paradise. It's because I claim to have what is called the GEET equation. It's called the Grand Unified Field Theory. Excuse me. It's the equation for anything and everything. Everything they teach in algebra and physics, they have correcting theorems. It's not, you never see the proportional ratios of the equations. They're approximates, they round off decimals. I figured out a mathematical system where you could do anything. You could figure out an equiangular spiral, pi to a non-repeating number. You could figure out, I'm able to model a black hole, white hole, singularity of a black hole accurately. The notions in physics of polarity, the coordinate system, how everything's done today, I do totally different. I claim that my system is absolute and correct without any discrepancies or errors. Where I got my mathematics was I took it out of the scriptures, I took the name of God. My rationale was that sound, harmonics, frequency, resonance, and everything vibrates. Our atoms are singing right now. This room is talking. We can't hear it. Sound is the common unifying thread through the universe. I went so far as to rationale that it is not education or culture or hereditary factors that make a genius. A greater percentage of implication is the name of the person, the language they speak, because of the harmonic patterns in their brain, which are translated into encephalograph wavelength frequencies. And I determined that certain brain waves are more conducive for memory retention, amplification of more harder to retain thoughts, ideas. They become like neutral intensifiers. In autism, my end goal is to work with people who want to work with their mind to try and develop the full potential of the 100% capacity of the brain through harmonics, through resonance. Now, it so happens, though, that anything that vibrates, anything moves, is going to have waveforms, it's going to have nodes. It's going to have an axis and spin characteristics to it. And it turns out, what I did was I took the name of God out of the scriptures and I said, well, that has to be the most perfect sound. It says in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the name of God is the source of creation. And so sure enough, I took the mathematics to the name of God, thank you, and I applied it to nuclear and particle physics, the mathematical equation, because in the ancient language, every letter has a number. They call it a spiritual language. It's called abjad. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit faster now, if I'm not already talking too fast. I wrote a paper. Other people may have made this claim. Knowledge is ancient. We call God the Ancient of Days. I have no new findings, except I've never heard it from anywhere else. I claim, what I discovered was that DNA in the major groove using my mathematics has a magnetic field in the gap. I took my paper and I published at the biggest genetic engineering conference in the US. That's me, Marko Rodin, up at the top. So I was very, very serious as far as sharing it and trying to apply it to food production, genetic engineering, ending diseases. Before that, my mathematics I applied to engines. Defense Science Magazine, which is a military publication of 100,000 issues a month, said that I had the most advanced design ever for an engine. I figured out how to mathematically model electron orbits, the particle motion of electricity, and the angular relationship of magnetic fields to electricity. I spoke, and Jim was there. He videotaped it. That was 3 years ago almost. At Airspace America, I was given an incredible position. I'm self-financed, but I was chosen to speak after General Atomics, which is a billion-dollar organization. How I did this was just by straight-out guts. You know, I just said, this is what I've done. I presented it to the people in charge of choosing the faculty on their curriculum, and they selected me. Only because of the fact that my work was different. And they said that they're in a, I think the word is quagmire. They say there's never been any major new breakthroughs in the nuclear field in decades and decades. I figured out how to combine Einsteinium and quantum physics together. This is the top of a toroid looking in, or a black hole. It's actually spinning counterclockwise. It's really heavy stuff. Unfortunately, as I go forward, I'm going to refer to the stuff that I've gone past back by me. Essentially, things are on fours. There's equiangular spirals. There's 4 of them there. It's one quanta of 36 parts. I was able to figure out how many parts in a quanta are magnetic, electrical, and what I call etherons. To me, the most important thing is that I'm able to model the ether, the proverbial source of all the fundamental atoms, building blocks of the atom. It fell to disfavor, mostly because, in my view, and I'm not well educated in scientific background, but because they couldn't prove symmetry and spin symmetry, and they couldn't show the ether. I'm going to go one more picture, and I'm going to keep on talking on the same theme. Those are the ethers emanating out of the center. I found that from the center of mass, etherons always emanate out. The top of that is a black hole. The bottom of it is a white hole. I found that everything in the universe is a 2-stage surge pump. When you ignite gasoline in your car, it first implodes and then explodes. Everything compresses and decompresses. Okay, a negative vortice is implosion. A positive vortice is explosion. A negative vortice is a black hole. A positive vortice is a white hole. That's male, female, yin-yang. It's a binary polarized system, always moving back and forth, to and fro, first in one direction and then the other. Now, those etherons are irresistible. Nothing physical, nothing concrete on the third dimension, in this case with mass, can resist them. They penetrate everything. Their velocity is the most fastest of anything, and they are linear. They are eternal. They go straight out. They do not curve like all other mass that we know in the universe. Everything that we've known to date always curves. All the curves, the nuclear new discovered particles, neutrinos, etc., still curve. Photons still curve. Etherons do not curve. They are unobservable. They are undetectable. The only way they can be observed is mathematically. I claim to be able to harness them, though, and to produce, sounds very simple, but it's the most profoundest thing that could be made. It's called a reactionless drive, or the perfect work wheel that you can hook anything into. That translates into unlimited workforce potential. This is my favorite model of all. This was done for me by a scientist friend. It's a section view of a toroid coil. Everything I'm modeling is toroidal in shape. Your red blood cells are toroid. The universe, galaxies, diskette are toroid. It turns out that I was able to take numbers and jigsaw them together and fit them together, never using any number more than another number. I must be scientifically under a neutral control, bipartisan. So I took numbers and I assembled them together and fitted them together, and I was able to produce, and no one's done this before, a single equation for every geometric shape simultaneously in all axes, x, y, z. That right there is the numbers. You'll notice that, well, I'll keep on going. It's upside down. Okay, that symbol in the center there is a quantum, and that symbol there is my equation. That again was done by a different scientist, a second scientist from who did that other work. Okay. But it shows that when you have them in 4, that symbol, it's on the center. When you see that symbol in the next diagram, the center will be off the middle. because it'll be based on 1, 9. A quantum is in 36 parts. Okay, there's the symbol. Now it's off-center. You see a sphere. Okay, our base 10 system, and this has never been known before. I hope you retain what I'm going to say because it's not hard. Okay, our system, if you look on the surface of this sphere, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, counting clockwise. But that is not how numbers are generated in our world. We like to think linear, 1, 2, 3, or in that form, but that isn't how it happens. Okay, in our world, when you have an embryo, the cells double, they split. Everything's mitosis, division. Okay, doubling or halving. Everything starts from the number 1 on the 3rd dimension. Now, the big breakthrough on this symbol here, and it's a little bit scary and intimidating, but it's important. And the breakthrough is that the solid black line is the same pathway that matter, or in this case, I-wind coils. It is a Mobius strip. It is infinity. It is spin continuum. It is an unbroken ring. You've never seen anybody take a sphere and model it mathematically as a spin continuum because they can never get their polarization right of negative and positive. How numbers occur, and bear in mind that the important thing here is that the 9 is above the center where it says 100%. Those are where the etherons come from. 9 is the axis, and the right mirror side is a mirror image of the left mirror side. They are perfect images. That's very significant. How the numbers occurs from the number 1 doubles and becomes 2. It's 2n, and 2 times 2 is 4. I'm showing just the numbers of the base 10 system where they come from, which is 0 through 9. There are 4 conditions in the base 10 system. Now 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 8 is 16. Now 16, 1 plus 6, I've added them to 7 just to show a single digit instead of going into larger whole numbers. 2 times 16 is 32, which equals a 5. I could have said 2 times 7. It still would have equaled a 5 because it equals 14, and 1 plus 4 equals 5. 2 times 32 equals 64, which is a 1, which is a 10, and we're back at 1 again. I'm just following the line. It's like a squirrel cage treadmill. It'll never end. It is perpetual. Our 3rd dimension reality is perpetual. It's spin continuum. You cannot arrest the motion of vibration in our world. There is no such thing as absolute freezing or perfect stillness. That's why in cryogenics with liquid helium, they've never reached perfect freezing because you always approach it in partial increments of percentages from your original whole. Whatever you start with, you always have to have some percentage thereof of your original unit. Otherwise, you would have nothing. And you cannot destroy matter. There's only energy transformation or conversion. From 64, you would have had 128, which would have been 2. 256 would have been 4. Or half of 1 is 0.5. Half of that's 0.25, which is a 7. Half of 0.25 is 0.125, would have been an 8. The angular relationship of those black lines, which is the physical world that we exist in, produces the hollow 396. So you notice that whole diagram, though it's not too clear, is all equiangular spirals. If you take and break it all down, everything here would form spirals. I mean, equiangular triangles. The 3, the 9, and the 6 is an equiangular triangle. The bottom does not connect. I found that in triangles, as it equates to pyramids, etc., I found that the polarity is the same. In other words, when 9's a positive, 3 and 6 are both negatives. That they do not connect. They are the result. This is the effect, and these are the occurrence. That is very, very significant in the energy aspects of it. The angular relationship of 1 to 2 is a 3, which is over here. From 2 to 4 is a 6, which is over here. From 4 to 8 is 12, which is a 3 again. It's always going to go binary, back and forth, to and fro, 3, 6, 3, 6. 8 and 7 is 15, which is 6. 7 and 5 is 12, which is a 3. 5 and 1 is a 6. Back and forth, 3, 6, 3, 6. 3 is 6, 6 is 12, which is 3. 12 is 24, which is 6. 24 is 48, which is a 3. They both equal 9. Our base 10 system is a simple black and white duality principle with an angular relationship. I applied the same angular relationship to the diamond crystal grain lattice matrix structure. This is the Mobius strip diagram. This is the field it creates. I claim to be able to produce perfect supercoils based on using copper wire. That's why these little curves are on it, because it's shown to be a wire that produce a perfect magnetic field. Classic academic textbooks teach, at least as far as I'm informed, that historically their statement has been that the magnetic intersection to an electrical copper wire is a 90-degree angle, right angle. And that is gross error and really worthless. Because as we model magnetism and electricity, we always see the electron orbits spiraling and the magnetic fields at angles to one another. If you have a right angle, you have a total flat plane, and you can't have a spiral. As we know, everything works in spirals, logarithmic equiangular spirals. Here was an experiment, and it shows that magnetic steel rings, this is my most conclusive example, the only actual prototype model. When I'm all done, I'm going to allow anyone to ask me tests. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand. You're just going to speak in front of the other people. Whoever I hear the clearest, I'll respond to. Anyone can ask me a question, and I will respond. But the most conclusive test I have to my information and data is that that magnetic fields do work in equilateral triangles and hexagons. The geometric shape of a 6 and the geometric shape of a 3. Here's the diamond grain lattice structure for the crystal seen in superconductivity. Here is hexagon close packing. These are the most prevalent forms in nature. Everything is these configurations in their most ideal resonance phonon state. This is an artichoke cut in half. The reason I show this is because you're going to have to remember this, is it's a slinky. You can see the little spirals around it. I hope you can see that. I won't ask if you can, but they're all on a common axis, the center. They all converge. They're all radiating out. I think they call it phyllotaxis to a certain degree. That's very significant because the same superconductivity that we make incredible ceramics out of that are very costly and also hard to work with because they're brittle, life forms biologically, I believe, are also conducting. They have high energy conductance. Here is the crystal lattice. This says right here in small print, diamond crystal lattice structure. And this is the same configuration of the hexagon equilateral triangle. Okay. This is where I got my mathematics. Right here are the numbers. There's the Arabic language. Everything has a letter. These are matched patterns. These are fractals. The type of math that I teach is called polarized fractal geometry. With it, you can model anything in the universe. This is a sacred scripture. This is where I got my equation. That scroll is in a perfect state of perfect preservation, was spotlessly clean, and gave the impression at first sight of being printed rather than a written page. So fine and intricate was the penmanship that, viewed at a distance, the writing appeared as a single wash of ink on the paper. We were overcome with admiration as we gazed upon a masterpiece which no calligraphist we believed would rival. So what this is it's 360 derivatives of the name, which I refer to as the most great name of God, Baha, B-A-H-A. B-A-H-A. It's worth noting that the B is compression, B, the H is decompression, Ha. In the magnetic industry, we use BH curve to model our magnetic fields. It's also very important to me, and I think you will really find this important, there are more pyramids named after their soul, the immortality of the Egyptians, which was called their Ba, than anything else. And their mathematics corresponded to the mathematics of the Ba, which is compression, and means glory. Baha means glory, light, wondrous, heaven, illumination. When Christ said he would return, he said I'd come in the glory of the Father. In the Aramaic, it was Baha. This is some of the sacred scripture. The reason I'm showing you this is because I'm trying to make myself seem a little bit more sane than I have a feeling I'm presenting myself. I took the physics and I said, it's not only written for social laws, dietary practices, or morals, ethics. And I'm a strong supporter of what ethics and morals, not so much as laws and restrictions, but sacred principles such as truth, freedom, etc. And I said the scriptures also would have all the answers for science and physics. Most people don't try and tackle the scriptures this way and take on God as their guinea pig. But it was so apparent to me that it was talking about physics. It says, verily, if he wished, he could make the rays of the sun manifest from an atom and the waves of the sea from a drop. He hath powers, he hath set forth in detail the knowledge of what was and what will be out of a point. Well, the highest degree of science that we have is particle physics, which is based, what I consider, on the primal point. And it was all physics, the essence of eternity. I italicized the fancy word. The needle of love was attracted by the magnet of the beauty. I found the scriptures to be a physics text, a sacred text. Jet black, hair hanging over a white throat as day and night embrace each other. Well, polarity, black and white. Unity shining forth from the horizon of her brow. You know, it just goes on and on. There was another point. So this is full moon conjunction with a rested her finger on her two fingers as though a new moon came into conjunction with the full moon. And then it says, learn from the sweet narrative that which we intend to describe, the hidden secret which is manifest and yet most concealed, O people of wisdom among the companions of my red ark. And it says, we honored it another day which manifested the concealed essence, the treasured secret, and the preserved mystery. So this is what I worked on. Tablet of Wisdom says the same thing. Says, should we produce but one word of it, all the souls would be disturbed, and the supports of all things would be destroyed, and the feet of the accomplished would be deviate. We have in our possession a science of which word should we convey? But one word to the beings, everyone would be made to believe in the manifestation of God and his knowledge, be equated with the secrets of all sciences, and attain a position whereby they would find themselves able to dispense with the sciences of both the ancients and the moderns. So, and then this is how letters correspond to vocal cords. The brain waves are shown here. This is all electrical reaction based on the vocal cords. They say autism is because certain areas of the brain don't start pulsing, don't automatically activate. I believe that you can actually take people and have them become more advanced than anything that we have ever thought of, and use their full capacities. They don't, instead of over-accentuating just one aspect, be it telepathy, and losing, let's call it photographic memory, or focusing on photographic memory and losing clairvoyance, you can have all these things in equilibrium and balance. This is just showing numbers, how I reduce from single numbers. Like I showed you when I had 16. Well, I just take 16, there's emanating from a 7. 16 of them became 32. I look up 32. Well, it lines up with a 5. That's that. Okay, this is the hardest work. I'm not going to try and be simple. I'm going to really just try and blow you out of the water the best I can. I claim that fission and fusion can be modeled mathematically. You have the number 1. One neutrino liberates 2 neutrinos. Bear in mind, this is the same pathway of electricity. Bear in mind, I'm going to come back to, and I'm going to point out to what I'm going to come back to. I'm going to come out to the number 1. There's only one 1, so 1 and 1 always lines up. I'm going to come back to the number 5, and there's 2 5s, so 2 and 5 always line up. Remember I said they were inverses, or I'm saying it now more clearly. Sure enough, you have 50-50, and there's 2 of them. And 2 times 50-50 equals 100%. Here you have 25%, which equals a 7, which there are 4 of them. 4 and 7 go together now. And 4 times 25% equals 100. Here you have 12. Now you've liberated from 4, you've gone to 16, and sure enough, they're each 12.5. The sum of the percentage of the parts times the number of the parts equals the sum total of the whole. Okay, and 12.5 equals 8, and there's 8 8s. 8 and 8 go together, 1 and 1 go together, 2 and 5 go together, and 7 and 4 go together. These are all inverses. And it goes on. That is the mathematical way of modeling in a very simple basis. Now it's going to get more complicated. Fission and fusion. The numbers never change. They're upside down. I'm going to just go past this sheet. This is one of my favorite works right here. You take, this sheet will never change. Every number is always the same. This is a takeoff. This is identical to what you were looking with that weird symbol that was infinity like this. They're now spread into a quantum of 36. Okay, and there's 36 great spheres arrayed around a single axis. You take here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boxes in any direction, and you add up the numbers in the center, they will always equal the same equation of doubling. Here it is 8, 16, which is 7, 32, which is a 5, 64, which is a 1. It's always 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, with 3, 9, 6 in the center. Now, and then of course it'll be 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5 up here. What it means is I'm able to model a non-decaying quantum wave that's immutable. No matter how high my numbers go to 7, 13, 21, they will always equal this pattern no matter what number of boxes I group together. The numbers are laid out by, here's the doubling, 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. In the opposite direction, 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. The middle is 3, 9, 6. They're going just like you saw around the perimeter of the circumference of the sphere. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, except I've combined them in a quantum which is showing cause and effect, which is the cause and the opposite reaction. So you got 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4. But it's never using any number more than once. Again, now this is based on 11. You have the same equation, 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. So no matter how macro, how big the galaxy is, or how small you go to an atom, they're all based on the same principles. In fact, one of the claims I make is that the macrocosm is the same as the microcosm, that even atoms are miniature black holes and white holes. They're vortices. Okay, this still is an S-curve. It's backwards, but it doesn't matter. There's your B, there's your H, and it shows that an induction, this is the equator right here, instead of following the curve and coming around this way, when it hits the equators, it goes out the opposite way. And I tapped into the mathematical equation for induction, which is what the BH curve is. This is what I make, which is a toroid, a supercoil. Up at the top, you have a magnetic negative vortice sucking in. At the bottom, you have a positive vortex going out. A magnetic negative vortice entrains things and pulls things in with it. So it pulls in, say this is the shape of a galaxy, it takes in burnt out stars, planets that are now just cinders, black ash, compresses them, spins them tighter and tighter and tighter, they get hotter, they compress till they get in the center. When they get to the center, which is the singularity, and bear in mind, no one's ever seen past this event horizon because it sucks in even the observation light. Okay? But I can mathematically go intact and come out the other side. Today in modern physics, they say it dissipates and disintegrates, is the rule of thumb for black holes. I say, no, that's not true. When it reaches here, it's so hot and so compressed, it comes out here, it's been purified. This is the ecological purification system of the whole universe, and all the matter is reprocessed and purified into hot fusion interstellar gas, which is amalgamated, cooled. Our Earth would be about here. It's still coming out the bottom where it's expanding as it's leaving, as it's receding away. It's transmitted out. Eventually, it'll cross over the equator right here. Once it gets here, we'll be now on the other side of the universe, and it'll start contracting again. Galaxies are all throughout, spread out this. There is one universe only, and all our galaxies are a part of it. And at least only one universe in this world. This is the angular spirals of the toroid going in. This is the polarization coming out. The numbers are all based on etheron emanations, and they're pulsing every 6. This shows how I did it. It shows the numbers coming out linearly. I imagine you probably can't see them, but they're straight 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4. I call this like breathing. They go out, they're going back in. This is called counter space or projective geometry. It's negative draft. The emanation came first. The coming in, the draft is afterwards. Gravity is a residual consequence. It is the end result. It is not the origin. Just as like when we have a combustion engine of a car, we can't harness the implosion, but we tap into the combustion end of it, the explosion, because implosion is on a nuclear level. This is showing them going in and out both, which gives rise to spin. These are the same numbers, put out the other numbers, which gives curvature based on doubling. The space in between is what I call the field space, is where the magnetism occurs. And this shows where everything, either at the center or on the equator, inverts. There's the etherons coming out. And that's the source of induction. 9 is the number that represents the etherons, and it's always at the focal center of the toroid. These are many little what I call nested vortices. I'll talk about them later. They're very important in electrical design engineering. These are many miniature black holes and white holes. You see as they come in, they're getting the nested vortices, these small ones on the surface, are contracting and they're expanding as they go away. They always revolve around 9, which is an axis. 9 would be in all these points, except they're spinning in. Here's one going in. So that's a nested vortice, black hole. They're spinning in the same direction, a white hole positive vortice, except it's spinning out. And they're in the shape of of an equiangular spiral, and there's 4 of them. I'm showing the polarization of the spin rotation from the etherion emanation. Now, toroidal pinch is the secret of this. The Tomahawk, Doublet 2, all the big Russian and French and foreign and even US fusion reactors are designed on this same principal effect, which is this hourglass. It's called the vertex, this hourglass effect, which is a toroid. Here you can see one of these diamond quantum tiles right here, how much farther away they are on the, through a cross sections of the toroid on the outer peripheral distance, how big they are, because they're the farthest away from the center. The farther away you go from the center, the greater the expansion. Closer to the center, that's how you get condensed matter. Here is a standard illustration of a black hole. The boxes don't change shape. They're all the same size. They're not elastic. It's rubber sheet geometry, which is what I use. Okay, again, they're not elastic. They're all square. They try and show that vertex. That vertex is called the singularity, the primal point, God's eye. It's the origin of everything, the epicenter. It's called the fulcrum. That's where it all happens. That's the source of everything. In biological systems as well. Everything works from the center out. But the mistake they do is their grid structure, it's called a matrix grid or lattice structure, and its reticulation does not change shape, and that's why it doesn't work their way. But here, what I do is I add curvature, I add emanation, and it does work. I put this in, I'm just going to go over it quickly. This is work that I did for superconductor design computer circuits that will cool themselves using their own magnetic field. Those are the holes, because I was able to figure out perfect polarity. These are nuclear particles, the up, down, strange, neutron, all hexagons, equiangular triangles, everything that I pointed out that even our base 10 system, which I showed earlier, does. And I'm showing structures within structures, which will be clear as we go along. Here is a paper that I wrote and I presented on DNA. Using that symbol again, which is 125.789, showing DNA. This is the paper. I'm about to go to a model. If you don't catch it on this next model, you won't be able to get it again. Bear in mind, note that on this sheet right here, the vortices on DNA, which is mitosis, they are perfectly lined up. I think that I'm meeting this week while I'm in town at the University of Colorado with the molecular biology doctors there. And I'm going to be discussing the applications of this to agriculture. The reason is because the vortices, the minute vortices on DNA, when they're lined up, you have mitosis or duplication. When they're staggered, they do not. They're like a herringbone, and it does not unwind. Again, you're going to see this symbol, and you're going to see how it makes DNA in the next sheet. DNA is called a double spiral helix. The backbone of DNA, which are the 2 backbones here, are made out of phosphates. The phosphates are ionized, and thus the phosphates carry a negative charge. And the negative charge, of course, then creates a magnetic field. Here I show the field which is responsible for the major groove of DNA. Okay, this major groove is where all the genetic activity takes place. Today they try and do it using mechanical surgery to influence genetic engineering. I claim by using magnetic fields, but I really call them etherion magnetic fields, because etherons and magnetism always occur simultaneously. Etherons are the cause, magnetism is the result. So I claim that using etherion magnetism, you can do any medical miracle imaginable. I want to point out on a personal level to you the point. This here and this here is the DNA interaction point. And the conducting is going this way and the conducting is going this way, which create eddy effects that occur in that major groove, magnetic eddy effects. Okay? This right here, DNA backbone, and this right here are naturally insulated. There is nothing occurring. It's only when there's a gap between the 2 pairs that the interactions occur. When we design our electrical appliances, we design them with no field space gap. I design cables, and I'll show that in the next few slides, about the 5th or 6th slide, which shows where these gaps belong. 396 is actually the number for the gaps. These are etherons emanating. They're always 2 apart, 2 this way and 2 that way. It's just the pulse frequency rate of them. This is just showing a wire pair, how I mathematically model it. Again, 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5 that way. 396 is always in the center. There is never anything physical where the 396 is. That's where we leave it alone, make a space, and that's where we allow all the interactions to occur on their own process. This is the windings of a coil. This is showing the electrical torsion, how things get tighter as they get towards the magic circle at the center, which is the singularity. That's a vortex well. Again, a closer of the vortex well. That's why we say, how are you well? Well, there's your well. And we say our soul. Well, our soul means the very center, epicenter, your bosom, which is right in there. Okay. This is for my own pleasure I'm mentioning this. If you don't understand, it doesn't matter. I'm saying it just to hear myself. These 2 points do not meet. They're exactly parallel, so to speak, but when they get to the center, it's called splayed. Splayed is a very not often used word. They are slightly askewed. That's the word I mean, that's not often. Askewed, okay? Means they're not perfectly straight, because everything works in diagonals, everything curves in our world. So when we wind this coil, today we wind toroidal coils where we just wind the wire straight. I learned that you have to design them kind of in an S-curve, Z-fact, Z. Now if you see these vortices here, they're staggered, and this is a stable transmission coil. Okay, and this is used to transmit electricity without any heat loss, without any friction, because of the fact that I'm using the harmonic resonance of the windings. And here's a diagram of how to make it. If you ask me if I have any prototypes, no. One of the purposes of me speaking here today, and I've met with other members of the audience already, is because they are about to make working models. Hopefully it will be successful. These are winding configurations. It's a hollow core. They're being braided helically. My claim is this, is that a superconductor, instead of doing it on a microstructure, I do it on a large structure. I take and braid the copper wires in a duplicating, exact replicating of the lattice structure of the superconductor using the same design but on a large scale, and I get the same quantum electrical effect, even though I'm using a large copper wire. Again, it's a transmission cable, 9s in the centers, etc. And I'm done because there's the Indian. So that's it at this point. Thank you. Now, I'm willing to respond to anyone who's brave enough to stand up and not be selected, but just and speak over everyone else loudly.
I have a question. There's a modulus pattern that goes basically let's see, 147.
Yes, 147, 258.
258, yeah. Those are also the number of the trees, the numbers on the tree.
Dividing by 7.
Have you worked with that a whole lot then? What are the implications of the modulus?
I did it because it had me wondering about it too.
Mark, would you repeat the question?
Okay, I'm going to say it totally different though.
Okay.
No mathematician has ever been able to take a repeating sequence of numbers when you divide it by 7 and reduce it to a single digit, such as 1 divided by 7 becomes an irrational, an endless series digit of numbers. It's easy. What happens is, you said a 714, correct?
147.
Okay. 147 is backwards.
Okay.
Okay? It's 714. It goes in increments of 3. Remember I showed the etherons were always 2 spaced from each other, and then etheron, it would be space, space, etheron. It's every third. Everything functions on every third, on thirds. The 6 are a result of the thirds, but it's just like the tracks, backward tracks that we see. They're just the tailwind exhaust, okay? So what happens is 7 plus 3 is 10, which is 1. 1 plus 3 is 4, and 4 plus 3 is 7. Now, the next number after 7 is going to be 7. 7 plus 3 is next number after 4 is going to be 7. 4 plus 3 is 7. It's a closed loop cycle. And what happens is that the series becomes a log, because if you divide 7 by 7, you get 1. So you can't divide any number by 7 and get an unrepeating number except the number that you're dividing itself by. So if you take 1 and then you divide 8 by 7, you get the same number as dividing 1 by 7 repeating series plus the number 1. So the first number divided by 7, if I can remember back, probably be 4. So 1 divided by 7 as a single digit would be 4, so 8 divided by 7 would have ended up being 5. And the multiples between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 dividing by 7 are going to be multiples of, I can't remember at this point, I have it written down, but to give an example, it'll be like multiples of 2. It'll be 2, 4, 6. All we're doing is changing instead of counting, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9 is multiples. Counting in multiples of 2 is multiples. And every number has a polarized opposite. The polar opposite, because the closest number to 9 is 8, okay, and after 9 comes 10, which is 1. 8 and 1 must be the exact polar opposites. Either in physics, and what I've done with my numbers, I'm the only one who does this, is I've been able to model all the spatial orientation relationships, up, down, front, back, right, left, as it relates mathematically. And so what happens is you can do this by showing the polar properties of numbers and inverse property of numbers. A polar property of number is 8 and 1. 1 times anything is 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm saying this because this is easy. 1 times anything is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. So 8 times anything has got to be going down units of 1. Because if 1's going up 1, and 8 and 1 are polar opposites, and 8 must go down 1, mirror images. So sure enough, right hand, left hand, they're the same. Opposals, thumbs, it's just mirror images. So sure enough, 1 8 is 8, 2 8 is 16, which equals 7. 3 8 is 32, 5. 4 8 is, so it's 8, 7, 3 8 is 24, 6. 4 8 is 32, 5. 8, 7, 6, 5. 8 times 5 is 44. So numbers only go up to 4. And then they cross the axis, which is 4.5, which is 9. So 4 is the mirror image of 5. And 5 is going 4 backwards down again, because once you've crossed 4.5, you've completed all your values. Because the base 10 system is 0 through 9. 0 is missing. And so 4 is your 5th in reality. And your other 5 are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So like 2 again, I'll just say quick, and you can work it out privately on your own. 2, 4, 6, 8, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 is multiples of 2. So 7 must go down units of 2. And sure enough, 1, 7 is 7. 2 times 7 is 14, which is 5. 3 times 7 is 21, which is 3. 7, 5, 3. The next number must be 1. 4 times 7 is 28, which equals 10, which is 1. Now, whoever wants to say a question, you can interrupt me as I'm talking. So go right ahead.
How is it possible to get copies of your papers?
Is it possible to get copies? Yes. The Metaphysical Bookstore is selling the book, and it is available. And of course, I'm looking. The reason for this talk, and I really appreciate Dean having me here, is I need a publisher. I've been printed and published worldwide, but only small papers, and I have no one who will carry my book. And I need creative writer. I got to get the book done, and I don't know how to type. It's just too big of an ordeal for me. It's burning me out. He's at the back table in back, and they have copies in back, and he'll take orders if I'm out. Now, I have to warn you, it's just a slide presentation. Each one of those slides, there was 50 slides approximately. I have over 400 pages, extensive mathematical, and most of them don't have text. Most of those are just notes to remind me about what I'm doing. If you place an order with him, I will, and he'll keep your name and number on a list. I will provide him with the book, and he will then, hopefully get that book done someday. A book will be under $50. It'll be real cheap, hopefully 25. Go ahead.
How can I relate this information now to having the electricity to run a car?
Okay. It's incredibly simple. The 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5 pathway that you saw in numbers is the equation for an equiangular spiral. I found that electricity, right now, all our cables in this whole building, most of them are single-strand copper wire. Okay, electricity, nothing wants to be pushed. We know we're generating from the opposite end. More stronger than push is pull, okay? Plus, nothing goes in a straight line in our physical world. Certainly not things that have orbits and trajectories and parabolas. Electricity orbits, okay? And it's matter in motion. That's all electricity is, matter in motion. And it follows line segments that are portions that become a curvature, line segments that are portions of an arc. So what happens is if you take these single-strand conductors, all of us have, well, I have heard, and I know some of us own it, stereo equipments where we go out and buy high-fidelity wires that are braided together, okay, that have much higher sound quality. Well, if we take our copper wires for electricity and weave them and leave gaps where those 396s are. 3 and 6 are for the magnet numbers. It sounds crazy, but it's true. 9 is for the etherons. You leave the gaps, you follow the 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, you put numbers in this equation, you piece them together as I have done here. You're able to, by following 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, it forms a helix. You're able to send electricity in a helical fashion. You've woven and braid your conductor together. It is spinning the electricity. It is polarized. It is synchronized. And it is no longer having resistance. It is harmonically oscillating where it is following the longest mean free path of travel. So you're not having random collisions of the electrical particles. It's like gears teething and meshing together. It literally accelerates itself. And it's much faster than anything we've ever seen in electricity. It would change computers, everything. You got to stand up and yell. I won't even call on hands. It's not fair. Just yell, whoever wants to.
This can be applied to a car.
Yeah.
Can it also be applied to a portable generator next to a house?
The type of generators we make today are designed on two separate mechanisms that interface each other. You can design a single coil that is self-contained, and it is portable. Electricity that we produce, a generator, well, the answer is yes. Size is not a restriction here, okay, because we're dealing with the atom. And so what it takes today a nuclear plant to do, we can do with the size of a dime. I claim that this can be used, that's why I spoke at Aerospace America. The name of my company is called the Aerodynamic Society. I claim that this can assist mankind to travel anywhere in the universe. This is unlimited power. The reason no one's done this before is because they use formulas without numbers, and you don't get the proper ratios and angular configurations. I'm the only one who has ever proposed a numerical system for modeling electricity at such a fast rate of speed that you can still capture each frame for every instance, that you can separate the magnetic from the electrical moment since they do not happen at the same time. No one's ever been able to do this. There's no machine capable of doing this. But because mathematics have spin properties, which I proved by showing that VW sign symbol there, which is unequivocal, but that the right half mirrored the left half. You know, spin symmetry of numbers had scientists self-destruct trying to prove that. I've oversimplified. My biggest problem is I don't know advanced mathematics to demonstrate the validity of my work. I'm only showing it in such a basic way that I actually would benefit if other mathematicians went ahead and applied and utilized my work to come to some qualified evaluation. Every mathematician at the universities have confessed, they said my mathematics are miles over their head. My time's up, and you've been very enjoyable as an audience, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.